Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to your go to space for self discovery, mindset shift, and practical strategies to help you live a more purpose driven life. Today, we are jumping into part two of our conversation with Anne Marie Thrive on how divorced fathers can rebuild confidence and find purpose again. In the first part of our discussion, we explore some of Anne Marie's personal experiences, looked at different ways divorced fathers can begin reclaiming their identity and purpose, and broke down real strategies for rebuilding self confidence after such a life altering event. Now, in part two, we are taking things a little deeper. We are going to focus on how to navigate the heavy emotion that often comes with divorce, like anger, sadness, loneliness, and guilt, and how to move forward by focusing on growth and building healthier future relationships. So, if you've been struggling with the emotional roller coaster or wondering how to trust yourself again as you rebuild, you're going to want to stick around for this. Without further ado, let's get into it. Before going deeper into the subject of our episode, I want to talk to you about my coaching program and why I created it. A few years ago, I found myself in a very dark place. I was working hard, but felt like I was spinning my wheels. I had no control over where my life was going. Everything around me was crumbling, and I was powerless to stop it. It's frustrating and scary when you've lost your sense of direction, especially in your 30s and 40s, when you feel like you should have had things figured out by now. That's why I created Rise. It's a coaching program for professionals who, like I did, feel disconnected from their purpose and passion. Through four simple steps, Rise helps you break free from doubts, reconnect with your true self, set clear goals, and take actions that move you forwards. I've been where you are, and I found a way through it. And I know you can too. So if this message resonates with you and you're ready to start your journey of rediscovery and purpose, I would love to help you take that next step. So feel free to connect with me through my website, www.yvestmukanya.com, and it spells YVESTMUKANYA.com, or on LinkedIn, just Yves Mukanya. Let's work together to help you create the life you know you deserve. Now, let's get back to our episode. Have you ever felt like you were stuck? Asking yourself, how do I find clarity and purpose when everything around me feels overwhelming? And I'm not even sure where I'm going. Well, you're not alone. Whether you're running a business, raising kids, or trying to keep up with the demands of life, we all reach a point where we lose our sense of direction. But here's the thing. If you're ready to rediscover your passion, find your way back again, and reconnect with what truly matters to you, you've come to the right place. I'm your host, Yves Mukanya, and you are listening to the Rising and Thriving podcast. Let's go back to the divorce father, right? So, in terms of goal settings,
Mhm.
how can they set realistic goals for growing and improving?
We're gonna assess and we're gonna figure out what do we want to do next? What do I want my life to look like? How much time do I want to spend with my children? Do I want to go back to school? Do I want to, get a different job? Do I want to move in a different position in my job? And so you
Mm-hmm.
start to look at these areas of your life and you start to figure out ways to get what you want, not in a selfish way, but you know what I mean. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you see the things that you wanna do, maybe there's a certain course that you have to take. So now you
Mm-hmm.
put that time into your daily routine so
Mm-hmm.
that you could finish this course so that you could be better at the job and have more knowledge than what you have, you know? If you're saving money to take your child on a special weekend,
Mm-hmm.
how much money is it gonna take to take them on that weekend?
Mm-hmm.
And how much time do you have to put in at work to be able to take that time off? Maybe if you can't take the whole weekend off, can you take an afternoon off?
Mm-hmm.
So you just look at the things that you want to do and you start reverse engineering them, which basically means I need $100. How can I get the $100? Do I need extra clients? Do I need to sell extra product?
Mm-hmm.
So you start to set goals to reach that goal. If
Mm-hmm.
I take this class, I'm going to be gone every Thursday night and it's going to cost me this much money. So I can't spend time with the kids on Thursday night. I may only be able to call them on my way to class because I'm going right from work and
Mm-hmm.
or right before they go to bed. So you just kind of start to rearrange and see where in the pocket of your calendar for the week and for the month these things can go.
So you say reverse engineering. So you
Mhm.
start, basically you start from start if you have a goal, you start from the end goal. Like, you start from the result and then you come back.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
like Will Smith, when he was making his movies, he would always start with the end in mind,
Mm-hmm.
and then he would work his way back, and he'd have all these sticky notes all over the place. There's a few
Mm-hmm.
people that do that. So the goal is here, but what steps do I need to take to get to that
To get
goal? And
there.
that's when all the other stuff comes in. It's like planning a vacation. Look at it that way
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people take longer to plan their vacations than they do to plan their lives. If
Mm-hmm.
you want to take 3 kids to Disney, it's going to require what? Travel. Where are we going to stay? What are we
Mm-hmm.
going to eat? What
Mm-hmm.
parks are we going to go to? How much does it cost to go into the park? So all of these facets of your life is the same thing. You have to figure out all of the things that you want to do and what it's going to cost you time, money, resources to be able to do that thing. And then
Okay.
you figure out how to get them, how to plan them, and how much time it should take you. And if you
Okay.
think it's going to take X amount of time and it takes longer, that's okay, you know?
Mm. All right. Okay. So, can you give us three examples of daily practices to boost self confidence?
When you get up in the morning, wake up with a smile. Don't be like, "Ugh," because that's gonna get your day going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then throughout the day, just look for things to be grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to people that are gonna boost you. Anything that you can do to increase the positivity in your mind and start building habits that are, maybe drink more water because that helps your brain to think better. Gratitude is a big thing for me. I'm always
Gratitude.
all the time just trying to think of something, even in the middle of a bad situation. I just always try to find the good in that situation because if I continue to focus on the bad, then it's not going to be healthy. And there's always
Mm-hmm.
around you to be thankful for. And as a father,
Mm-hmm.
think to yourself, uh, say you've got 2 kids, because kids have different personalities.
True. I
And
have two boys, so two different
yeah,
personalities that I have to deal
exactly.
with.
So you've got the one that runs to you all the time. You may have
Mm-hmm.
given him a peanut and he runs and, "Daddy, thank you for the peanut," and the other one's like, "Hey, Dad, thanks," and he just walks away and doesn't even say anything.
Yep.
While the other one just comes over, jumps on your lap, gives you a hug, and who do you think is gonna give you more. You know what I mean? And I don't
Mm-hmm.
mean that in a bad way. What I mean is those vibes that you get from that certain thankfulness is the same thing that happens to your body. So looking
Mm-hmm.
around for things that you can be grateful for that other people don't have, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
throughout
And
the day.
what about affirmations? Like, you think
Yes,
they helpful?
definitely. Mhm. I have I have some affirmations that I say to myself, and
Mm-hmm.
even with all of the health issues that I've had, if I start to feel pain or I start to feel like I'm at a loss or something, I'll
Mm-hmm.
just go someplace quiet. This is me, play some music, and I start to think to myself, my
Mm-hmm.
body feels great. I have the energy that I need to do the things that I need to accomplish. And if I don't have the answer for something right now, the answer is going to come to me. I know the
Mm-hmm.
answer is going to come to me.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just positively, like you said, the affirmations throughout the day that I am worthy of this
Mm-hmm.
life. I am worthy to have the things that I want and to become a better person to have those things. And it's not that
Mm-hmm.
you need to be a better person to have those things, but I'm talking about like work and life and things like that. You want to get the things that you want in a healthy way.
Yeah.
John 10:10 says that Jesus came to give us life and to give it to us more abundantly. And that's what I kept saying to myself. I'm not just going to survive through this cancer. I'm going to thrive through it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay. All right. I think for me, I wanted to get my body to move because I could not sit in a place when you ruminate, like always going back to the negative. I feel like it was negative. And I'm like, no, like I need to move. I need to change position. I need to do something different. And the best way for me was to go to the gym. And at the gym, what we talked about mindfulness, right? It's it's basically I'm not thinking about anything else. My focus, my mind is totally connected to the body, to the movement that I'm doing. Every single thing. There's not 1 second when I think about the problem, thinking about the lawyers, I'm thinking about no. It's right. I'm right there in that moment. with my music on and focus on exactly what I'm doing. So exercising for me was the best thing that could have happened. As I reconnected to my body, I
Mhm,
decided to move to affirmations. And
mhm,
then from affirmations, you're going to now taking action, because I also believe that you can say all the affirmation that you want, but if you don't move or you don't take action into what you do or what you say, at the end
mhm.
of the day, you might not even believe it, because you can't even make it true. Right. So it has to come, you have to take action on anything that you do. I don't know if that's all, that was also your experience.
Yeah, exercise is a big thing because exercise increases the dopamine level in your brain, right? And
Mm-hmm.
dopamine is the feel good neurotransmitter. It's called the feel good neurotransmitter because that's exactly what it does is increases the endorphins and it's like being in a happy place. And
Mm-hmm.
what happens when that happens is that the it kind of if you can think of your brain as a room, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so or as a light, and, right now you're in the dark, and then all of a sudden, as you exercise, the light starts to come on, and
Mm-hmm.
that light starts to take over that darkness to where it permeates your whole body, and that's when, you know, it increases those, frequency levels, and
Mm-hmm.
it helps the nervous system, and it helps the organs, and then the brain doesn't it kinda shuts out the negative,
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to start to see things differently as opposed to, like
Mm-hmm.
you said, just sitting there and ruminating.
Mm-hmm.
So it builds value in us, it builds self-confidence in us, it increases our frequency levels so that we
Mm-hmm.
could, and it also causes feelings of reward. And
Mm-hmm.
so the body works on reward and it wants to continue that action. It's like a healthy drug, to where you can do it and it's helpful to you. You don't want to hurt yourself, but it's just one of those things. Exercise, I mean, it's just amazing the what it does to the body, 'cause it just engages all sorts of things within our systems, that help
Mm-hmm.
us to live well.
Okay. Yeah. That was always totally my experience.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
now that you have that client and confidence is on the rise, I think it's also important to address the emotional challenges that comes with divorce.
It's really important um to allow yourself the opportunity to feel
Mm-hmm.
those emotions because some emotions just need to be experienced and then you don't need them anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe you need to express that anger right now and just get it out, let it out so that healthy things can start to come back in. And I think, as guys, that's a hard thing to do sometimes. It's okay to cry because it's actually a scientific fact that tears and that whole emotion of the tears is healing to the body. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can do it alone. You don't have to do it with other people, but just acknowledge the feelings that you have so that you could work through them. Because if we don't acknowledge them and we stuff them in, then
Mm-hmm.
that causes bad things for our bodies, you know?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So it's important.
Would you say the same thing with someone who say that he feels completely overwhelmed? Is that the
Yeah.
same kind of procedure?
Mhm. Yeah, because overwhelmed is just it's like fear that
Mm-hmm.
you can't do these things, you're not good enough to do these things. And so just why am I overwhelmed right now? What's causing me to be overwhelmed is because fear, if you think of fear, what?
Mm-hmm.
False evidence appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
So is this false evidence that's appearing real right now? Because every emotion really boils down to fear, right?
Okay.
Except for happiness and gratitude. And
Yeah.
so what are you fearing right now? Are you afraid that you're never going to have a life again? Are you afraid that your kids aren't going to love you the same, that things are never going to be right? So, what is it that's causing this emotion?
Mm-hmm.
And acknowledging it and saying, it's true. What do I need to do to work on it? Or, no, it's false. This doesn't belong to me. It's
Mm-hmm.
just coming and I don't need it and it's not serving me, you know. But acknowledging those emotions is very, very important. Like I was saying before about the five stages of grief, you
Mm-hmm.
have to, these things are going to come. And sometimes it's just a product of what you're going through. Sometimes it's just really something that you have to work through and
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge it and then get rid of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
because
And
I
it's
think
not gonna happen forever because eventually you start, like with your working out, it starts to those negative thoughts start being replaced with positive thoughts, and it's
mm-hmm,
the same thing with the emotions, you know? You start to learn to live life again in a different way, right? As
mm-hmm,
every day you're doing something different to help yourself. Eventually, you look back and you can't even like with me, I look back sometimes and I don't even know who that person was. You know what I mean?
mm,
I mean, I know it was me. I know I experienced it, but I'm so different right now. And it's
mm,
part of my past, but it doesn't, the amount of itself that it carries into my future is different, you know?
different.
It's
Yeah.
like high school. If you get bullied, it's like, oh my God, every day you
Mm-hmm,
go in, I experienced that. And and then I look back on my life, and if there's anything I could tell kids is it's like, listen, you know, I actually have 2 little boys that I helped my friend with, and,
mm-hmm,
they're in their teens now, and they had a very, very bad, breakup, and even the father is very toxic right now, and
mm,
so one of them just went to college, and he was here on, we all went to dinner. He was here for Christmas, and, I said to him, I said, "Hey, those, because one just started high school and one just
mm-hmm,
started college," and I said to them, "If I could tell you anything, is that your whole life is right here,
mm,
I don't know if you can see my other hand,
mm-hmm,
but high school and college are just here. And if you could see that it's only 4 years of your life, 4 here, 4 there, if you decide to go to college, right, for the
mm-hmm,
other one, as opposed to your whole life. So don't ever let anyone get you down and put you down, and just understand that it's temporary and this is
mm,
not how your life is going to be forever. It's
however.
just a little snippet of time. And
Mm,
how you choose to deal with it is what's going to matter in the end. Because if you internalize it, you take it in and you take it on as your belief,
mm-hmm,
then you're going to lose your value. You're going to lose who you are, and you're not going to be able to think straight.
mm. Wow.
I had that conversation with them when we were at dinner. It wasn't long, but just to remind them that, they're good kids despite what they've gone through,
Mm-hmm,
and, you know, they're a product of their mom and their dad, but
mm-hmm.
they're also themselves individually.
Okay. I mean, for me, to be completely honest, in the beginning, I was very angry.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
but the thing is the anger was all over the place, you know?
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
days I was angry at my situation.
Mhm.
Some days it was directed at my ex-wife, and
Mhm.
other days it was just directed at myself, you know?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
from what I noticed by talking to my clients, a lot of them experience the same thing when they go through the same situation. That
Mhm.
anger always comes very strongly.
Mhm.
And also
Yeah.
on top of the anger, I also have, I think, loneliness came into play
Yes.
as well. Because
Mhm.
when you're married, you're part of this unit, right?
Mhm.
And then you had built relationships around that unit, and that those relationships are there to support it, right?
Mhm.
But when the unit is not there anymore, a lot of those relationships went away,
Mhm.
and I really found myself alone for a very long time,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So my question to you is this: how do you guide your clients experiencing anger and loneliness, especially loneliness?
Mhm. Well, you now have to find things that you enjoy doing that bring you life in a different situation. You
Mm-hmm,
know, I was angry for a long time because, when I got into that accident, it took me years, I mean, decades to get better. You
mm-hmm,
know, it happened a little at a time, a little at a time, a little at a time. But then another one happened, and then another one happened. And I just, even though I believed in God, I loved God, and I was angry because it's like, "Why me?" That's
mm-hmm.
3 now or 4
Yeah,
now, or whatever the number is, what
yeah.
the heck? And it seemed that they happened at times when I was trying to better myself. I was trying to go to school. I was trying to whatever it was that it was. And so there was a lot of loneliness and a lot of
Mm,
anger, you know, and I just had to deal with those emotions. And I'll never forget my dad. He came to visit one day, and I don't know what happened, uh but he said to me, he said, and he pointed to my heart. He goes, "If this doesn't change, nothing will change." And I really took that to
Mm.
heart, no pun intended. You know,
Mhm.
I needed to get my heart right because even though I had gone through those accidents, hey, I'm still alive. I could
Mhm.
still do things. You know, I'm not stuck in a wheelchair with somebody having to take care of me.
Mm.
And I went to the beach by myself. I did a lot of things by myself, you know. I bought
Mhm.
myself a sports car. I went driving around in that thing all the time after work, you know. Frozen yogurt was big at the time, and I would just
Mhm.
get frozen yogurt, and because I was able to, you know, be mobile, I started walking a lot, and
Mm.
I was alone a lot. But during
Mm.
those alone times was how I grew, you
Mm.
know.
You were alone or you were lonely? Because I think there's a difference between the two, right? One is I feel like one is a choice.
I was with people and I still felt lonely, you know.
Wow.
Yep. I
Wow.
was with best friends, and deep down it was like I was still lonely because I wasn't happy with myself and I wasn't happy with my life. And it
Mm.
wasn't until that I gave myself that value that I have a right to be here and I
Mhm.
have a right to a good life.
Mm.
So what is that good life for me? What is it now? Because, you know, like I said, I had to do something totally different. It was still business, it was still, you know, whatever, but it had to be different because of my current physical state at the
Mhm.
time,
Mm.
you know. And so there was just a lot of reworking to do to come back. But we don't just want to come back, we want to come back stronger. And that depends
Mm.
on us, you know.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
And would you recommend somebody who just freshly divorced and hasn't dealt still at that stage where he's dealing with all those emotions, would you recommend that person to go back on the dating scene?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Because you haven't worked through anything, you
Mhm.
haven't figured out what caused the situation, you haven't figured out what part you played in it,
Mhm.
and um you divorced Nancy, but you're still looking for Nancy. And how many Nancys are you gonna go through before Sally? And so I think that if we don't heal properly, we're just gonna bring things into the next relationship. You wanna come in with your you wanna come in with yourself, you don't
Mhm.
wanna come in with a bag. Shoulder, you know? And until you get rid of all of those things in your bag, you don't wanna bring them into the next
In the
relationship.
next
I think that's
relationship.
what happens,
Yeah.
you know? You're trying to put a Band-Aid on something that's bleeding, and it's not gonna heal.
Mm.
Um, you know, you wanna come in fresh, you wanna come in healed, you wanna come in, you know, really giving something to that person that, you know, that's a good part of you, not a bad part of you, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The reason why I'm saying this is because I've seen, like, for a few of my clients, there's always that drive to jump into another relationship. Like, even for like a certain number want to do that because they want to go because they're still dealing with the anger. They want to do something very different from totally different from the woman that they had before, their ex-wife. But they
Mhm.
always end up with the person who has the same characteristics
Yeah.
as
Mm,
the old one.
mhm,
But for me, I took a very different route for me because what helped me was, as I told you before, I told you earlier, I spent a lot of my time and energy trying to understand my values and
mhm.
reconnect it with myself. So
Right.
for 2 years, I did not date or I did not even entertain
Mm,
anybody from the opposite sex. It was just me focusing on the things that I wanted to do. All right.
right.
Believe me, I had people that come in, girls that came in, and women that came in took at that in that period of time, I closed myself off.
Mhm.
I decided that this was not the route because I did not want to get into something else and find the same person. And to be
Yes.
and I think to be honest also when I decided to go back into dating, right?
Mm,
And I believe life also play tricks on you as well to understand where you are. It's going to start sending you people that have the old characteristics
mhm.
just to see if you're strong enough to say
Yeah.
no,
Mhm.
right? And for me that's the thing that I noticed too. Like In the beginning, it was a lot of old characteristics, a lot of things that I saw. I'm like, you know what? Because I was looking at it from a healed perspective.
Mhm.
I was like, no, this is not me. That's no, those are not my, it's no align with my values. And I had a clear, in Zen, they call clear mind,
Mhm.
right? Because I practiced Zen
Mhm.
meditation for a little bit, not for a little bit, for actually for a very long time. Even till now, I'm still practicing it because it
Mhm.
helped me with the mindfulness, calming myself. And we talked about how to regulate the nervous system, and Zen
Yes.
helped me during that time to get back to the kind of state.
Mhm.
You know, so the question that I had for you, right? Uh, how can divorced fathers take care of their emotion and create a healthy environment for them and their kids?
Well, working on yourself to be the best you that you can be, and then transferring that onto them and letting them know, you're still dad, you're still
Hmm.
going to be there for them. And like we talked about before, spending time with them, doing special things with them, creating positive memories for them, answering questions that they might have,
Mm,
because it's a new situation for them. And listening to them is very important. And they may not communicate in a way that you're familiar, but they are communicating, and to really, explore what they're communicating to you and not just let it pass you by,
mhm,
and just really listening to them, to their wants, to their needs, to their desires, and, try to meet them as a father as much as you can, because they need that safety. They
yeah,
need to know that they're cared for and they're loved, and
mhm,
that you left mom, you didn't leave them, you know?
okay,
And a lot of
okay,
kids have they have a hard time differentiating things. And so these things have to be, love has to be practiced on a consistent basis for them to feel it,
mm,
because it's almost like playing hide and seek. When you're there,
mm,
you're when you're not, you're not. So
mm,
you have to make that time that you're gone, you know, be like you're still there, because they feel your love, they feel your energy, they feel your acceptance,
mm,
and they know that they weren't what caused it, and that's
mhm,
where the arguing together in front of the children is not the best thing. And having them overhear you in an argument is not the best thing,
mm,
you know,
yeah,
because there's always that, I caused this for the kids because they don't understand, you know.
yeah. I think you're right about that because very early on, I had a conversation with my son. Right now he's 12 years old, but at that time I believe he was 7 years old,
Mm,
and I was driving him back to his mother's house, and he asked me very clearly, "When are you coming back?"
mm,
I'm like, you know, uh, I had to be very clear. It's like there's there's no coming back.
mhm,
And he told me, he's like, yeah, but I understand that, but when two people are mad at each other, they forgive each other,
mm,
right? I was like, man,
mhm, mhm.
I I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, this kid, he got me there,
Mhm,
right? He
mhm,
got me there. I'm like, and I had to really, really dig deep because I was driving and I had to slow down for a
mhm.
bit, got off the highway, um, really think about how to answer him because I did not want him to believe that they caused it or there was something that couldn't be that should have been done that wasn't being done, right? I had
Right.
to be very I had to be very clear with him. I'm like, there's things that happen between two people. Two people can get together, love each other, but at some point, if things don't work out, it's okay to separate. It's okay for people to go their own separate ways, but it doesn't mean that we don't love you.
Mhm,
All right.
mhm.
You
Right.
are my priority.
Mhm,
And I'm 100% sure that you are your mom's priority. The
mhm,
love that we have for you will never, ever change.
mhm.
All right. So you have to trust us on that. But forgiveness exists, but it's not gonna be forgiveness as a couple, but
Mhm.
forgiveness in a very different form. And we just
Yes.
have to be patient to see how or where we're gonna get with this. But it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
And I think he took it. Right. I don't know if he understood fully what I was saying, but he never asked me that question again after that.
Yeah.
Right. It was just I don't know. To be honest, I was really caught off guard when
Oh,
he
yeah.
said something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I think also an explanation
Mm-hmm.
of relationships to them, especially as they're starting to get older. There's mommy and there's daddy. We're always going to be mommy and daddy,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not going to be married mommy and daddy, you
Mm,
know? And you are my son, and there's nothing you could do to, my relationship with mommy is different than my relationship with you.
mm,
And I still love mommy, but not in the same parameters. They need to be
mm,
taught the boundaries of relationships and
mm,
the purpose of each relationship. Like grandparents, cousins,
mm,
if they understand those relationships, friends, they'll be able to realize the purpose of each relationship and start to, you know, create boundaries, healthy boundaries, so that they
mm.
stay safe, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and if they realize what relationships are, what they bring to the table, how they're supposed to be handled, it'll really help them, you
Mm.
know, later on, um, in
Okay.
the long run, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving away from this, I want to touch upon mental health for a little bit. But before
Mhm.
we go, I just want to read some research and want to get your opinion on that.
Okay.
Right. So there's there's a study by I think it's from Psychology Today. They found that divorced men are 8 times more likely to end their lives than divorced women.
Mhm.
Another study by Dr. Mohammed Azam, who's a family medicine doctor, he found that divorced men are more likely to experience worse physical and mental health outcome after a divorce than their former spouses. They are also more prone to developing feelings of hopelessness during this period.
Mhm.
And also say that further research published in the Journal of Men's Health indicates that divorced men are significantly more prone to depression,
Mhm.
substance abuse, and heart disease compared to married men.
Mhm.
So, knowing that, right, how would you help your client to set healthy boundaries and protect his mental health?
That's a mouthful. Because, when we're in relationships, sometimes we throw ourselves completely into that person, right?
Mhm,
And things stop. The things that we used to do before, we may not do anymore. Now we're doing different things, and our life is redefined because of that other person, right?
mm,
And so, if we don't continue in the vein of doing things that are important to us, even though, you know, um, we're a couple now, there has to be that space where you can do some things, you know. Like my
mm,
husband loves to golf, and I see there's a difference in him when he golfs and when he doesn't, because
mm,
that's his happy place.
mhm,
And so, um, when you don't have those things, um, and I think some of the reasons that that happens to men
mhm,
is there's just this sense of pride, and a sense of, I'm a guy, I'm not supposed to be asking for help. I'm a guy, I'm not supposed to be asking for directions. I'm supposed to be
mm,
strong. I'm supposed to be, she's supposed to be the weaker one, not me.
mm,
And when we don't acknowledge what we're going through, again, we stuff it in, and we don't try to, uh, medicate. And I don't mean that by using medication, but
mhm,
taking the time for you, taking the time, like I said before, to cry, to acknowledge that you're angry, to acknowledge that you're depressed, and getting the help now
Mhm.
is just makes the problem bigger and bigger and bigger, you know?
Mhm.
I've seen it in my brothers, I've seen it in my friends, where there's just this unspoken, and I think that things are changing,
Mhm.
you know, especially since COVID, and the whole mental issue just really started becoming more to light. But,
Mhm.
it comes from not reaching out and having healthy relationships that keep us from getting depressed, that keep us from, it's okay to get angry, but what you do with that anger is what matters,
Mhm.
and just having healthy relationships
Mm.
where you can call on your friend and you can go play a game or go for, go somewhere, go for a drive. Men don't do those things as often as women do. And
Mm.
I think not having those outlets to increase those endorphins and to give you that peaceful, accepted feeling,
Mhm.
because it's all about, when people listen to us, hear us, accept us, love us, that's what keeps us going, you
Mm.
know? And
Mhm.
I don't think men reach out, you know? And
Mm.
and I think that if they do reach out, it's almost like a sign of weakness, and it shouldn't be, because you are physical and spiritual beings,
Mhm.
and we all need each other. And when you feel like you can't act on that need, that's what makes life harder. That's what hardens the heart. That's what keeps the mind in itself, and it starts to, implode and get
Mm.
depressed,
Mm.
you know. So community.
Community, you said.
Yeah, being in
So
community with people, you
so how
know?
does it how do you build community? Because, as you grow age, it's very difficult to create friendships like that, right? Like when you're younger, yeah, it's easy. They drop you into school. After 6 hours, you have about 10 to 12 friends, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm,
as a grown up,
mhm.
it's very difficult to create those type of relationship or to have those type of meaningful relationships. So how would you say to a man like that? Or how
If you
would you
start thinking of other people needing you just as much as you need other people, you'll start to look for ways to be of service to others. When we're of
Mhm.
service to others, it not only serves them, it serves us. And there's so many, you know, those of you that we're talking to divorced people now. How many
Mhm.
kids are out there that, don't have fathers, don't have mothers, they're orphans, that,
Mhm.
Boys and Girls Club, all of these places where you can go and you can volunteer and you could be a role model for someone else, because that's going to
Mhm.
give you purpose. It's going to give you peace, you know um because we're loving others as we want ourselves to be loved,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
think that we, as men, they just tend to retreat more. My father-in-law just passed away, and my husband and I have, praise God, a great relationship, but
Mhm.
I allow him um to grieve the way that he needs to grieve,
Mhm.
and it's different than how I grieve. Uh and just that respect that's there,
Mhm.
because he has to go through this process and I just need to be there for that process. So looking for ways to help others to get through their processes helps us through ours. Like I had said before, we're not islands. We shouldn't be on our own, because that's when, things happen.
Got it.
So going to the gym, finding people at the gym, looking to see, things that are happening around town that
Mhm.
that would be of help to you, or
Mhm.
would be of value to you, and just start, because when how your son, made that comment to you, if
Mhm.
you start helping other people, you're going to learn from their experiences, and they might just end up blessing you more than you bless them. That's been my experience,
Mhm.
because like I said, I retreated myself. I mean, there were times where I would go to work on a Monday through
Mhm.
Friday, come home on Friday and I wouldn't talk to anybody until I went back to work on Monday, you know?
Wow.
So I know all about that.
Okay.
Yeah. And when you stop focusing on your pain. I mean, it's good to feel it and go through it, but, you know,
Mm,
just kinda doing things with others, is when, you start to become alive yourself.
got it. Got it.
Mhm,
All right. So I wanted to switch gears or switch area at this point, and I wanted to look at career and maybe also future relationships for the divorced father.
mhm.
Because you know it's very challenging to balance personal struggles with work responsibilities. How divorced fathers can stay on track professionally while getting ready for healthier relationships in the future.
It goes back to what we were talking about before, where you institute that self-care.
Mm.
So maybe getting a workout in before you go to work,
Mm-hmm.
so that you've got that energy to continue to go. Setting work goals for yourself so that you can reach those goals. Because if we don't have a vision for something that we want, then we're going to perish inside because we have nothing to look forward to. And so looking
Mm-hmm.
forward to work, and certain aspects of work that can give you the energy because when you're doing them, they give you purpose, they give you life, they give you
Mm-hmm.
peace, you know, um, and just focusing on those things and leaving the problems for later,
Mm-hmm.
and if they happen to pop up during the day, go to the bathroom, get a glass of water, walk around for a second, and acknowledge them and then just keep going back to work. Um,
Okay.
so that you can, have that, like I talked about before, having that mental agility to where this is a problem right now. I only have to deal with this part. I can deal with the other part later, right?
Mm.
Because it's not a fire.
If I
It's
okay.
just a situation that's there, and then just go back to doing the work thing. Because when we don't have the respect for those things, then chaos starts to happen, you
Got
know?
it.
Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
at work right now, I'll deal with this later, unless your
Mm-hmm.
child is sick and you need to go pick them up, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the more you practice doing that, the easier it is gonna be to handle your emotions, because your body's gonna be like, I I don't have to feel this way after a while, that's
Mm-hmm.
how I dealt with it, because it if we don't take control of our emotions and deal with them in a healthy manner, they're going to deal with us. And
Mm.
so dealing with them in a healthy way helps us to be able to put them aside when we need to. If we
Mm.
just let ourselves cry anytime that we want to, it's like a child, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to keep crying until you give them what they want. But if you
Yeah.
let them cry and they don't get what they want and then they stop, they start to see that, oh, it didn't work this time.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Change of
it's
tactics.
yeah, so you just have to, just continue, eh, and and keeping that self-value of just because this is happening, just because you're not winning in one area doesn't mean you can't win in another area,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
um, is
Yeah.
also very important, because you bring value to that job, you bring value
Mm-hmm.
to the people that are at that job, and
Mm-hmm.
that could be a source of happiness for you, you
Mm.
know?
Mm-hmm. So, what about if you're uncertain about the career? Because I think earlier you mentioned that you might figure found out that the job you had was you had that job just because you needed to support your family, but now that you don't have it anymore,
Mhm.
you don't know what to do. So you know that you become uncertain. So how would somebody like that handle that situation?
Well, you have to see what your strengths are, what you're good at, and what you want to do, and then once you figure those things out, then you start looking for work that, fits those spots for you. Because you want to be doing the kind of work that's gonna bring, satisfaction, to
Got it.
you and to others, because if you're not satisfied, chances are the job you're doing isn't gonna satisfy others, and so finding something that's fulfilling to you, um, that makes you wanna go to work every day. It's a
Mm.
want to, not a have to, you know?
Mm.
so finding, and there's lots of things out there, that can be, there's a lot of opportunities that weren't available years ago. And so, uh,
Okay.
taking those assessments of the things that make you happy. You may not want, like my dad, he was an entrepreneur. He wasn't he had worked for other people before. He didn't want to work for people. He wanted to work for himself. And so
Mm-hmm.
he created, you know, a life for himself where he didn't have to answer to other people. He answered to himself.
Okay.
He became responsible. Not that he wasn't before, but you know what I mean? It was
Mm-hmm.
like, this is the kind of lifestyle I want. This is what I need. So I have to be responsible to get the things that I need so that I could work, do the work that I want to do to provide for my family and still be
Mm.
happy.
Gosh, I got it. Got it. All right. So, in terms of romantic relationships, all right, how can they open themselves up for future relationships while still managing self care?
Well, I would ease in to relationships, and you know, if there's ways to have relationships within the scope of being around other people
Mm-hmm.
where you can get to know the person, because you could see how they react with other people, and then you'll see how they react with you,
Mm-hmm.
before actually going out into the dating world. There
Mm-hmm.
may be places that you could go to meet people. You start to build friendships with people, then you meet other people within their circles, and you just
Mm-hmm.
kind of, you know um instead of going on the dating apps and things like that, because it's good to see people in their environment to see how they react to
Mm-hmm.
the craziest of situations. um,
Mm.
really tells about a lot about a person.
Got
So if there's opportunities to do that, that would be my recommendation.
Okay, so you just take it easy, just instead of just going full blown,
Mhm.
step
Mhm.
just step by step, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what would you say are the signs that can indicate that someone is ready for something new, some healthy relationships?
I think when you're happy with yourself, that you could be by yourself, and you don't, you're okay with being by yourself, takes away the need to have someone else. And
Mhm.
so then you could be more choosy, you know?
Mm. Mm.
It'll give you the strength to wait for the right person instead of, coming from a place of loneliness where you
Mm.
need someone and want someone, and may not be paying attention to what's in front of you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That could hurt you later because you're being hasty.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how can they balance now, like in their position now, how can they balance professional responsibilities with new personal life? Because it's a different bowl game at that price, right? You're divorced, if you have kids, co-parenting, and then you have work, it's a unit, but very different. So how can they handle the balance all that?
The healthy thing I think would be to do is to compartmentalize your life. And by that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on the weeks that you have your children, you're there and you're present with those children. On the weeks that you don't, that could be the time that you go out and be with friends and meet other people. And for me, if that were to happen to me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I would want to introduce a new person to my children,
Mm.
um, just certain family members. I mean, that this is what I did until I was sure that this was the person for me, you know,
Mm.
because then, especially when children are involved, there's like this revolving door, and then they get to know so many people. It brings confusion, and, they start giving away pieces of themselves to every relationship that you have. Now they're having that relationship with that person. And if it doesn't work out, then, you know,
Mm.
it makes it difficult for them.
Okay. Okay. Oh, wow. Well, I say we covered quite a lot today,
Mhm.
and you gave me so much information. I'm really, really thank you for that.
Thank you.
And as we wrap up, I want to tell our listeners that to remember that even though going through a divorce is very challenging, it can also be a catalyst for growth. You know,
Amen.
by reclaiming your identity, rebuilding your confidence,
Yeah.
and nurturing your relationships, you can emerge stronger and more purposeful. I mean, just look at me. If you told me 7 or 10 years ago that I would be having a podcast discussing various aspects of mental health with knowledgeable guests, I would have told you, I would have called you crazy, But I was able to use my pain
Mm,
and the challenging stage of my life as a stepping stone to get to where I am today.
mhm.
And my thing is, if I did it, you can do it too,
Amen.
because I firmly believe that you have the ability, you have the power to change your life. And all you have to do is just show up and trust yourself,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and anything else will take care of itself,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know?
I totally agree with that. And it goes back to being happy within yourself, seeing that
Mm,
within yourself. Because if you can accept yourself and be alone by yourself, then you can be, happy in any situation because
mm,
you are you, and no matter what's happening around you, you are you, you know. And you
exactly.
have to, yeah. It's very,
Okay.
and every, like me with all of the things that I've gone through, you can, you know, you can curl up like a fetus and
Ex-
woe is me and live your life that way for the rest of your
exactly.
days, or you could, like you said, that could be purpose for growth,
Mm,
catalyst to growth. So,
exactly.
mm.
Exactly.
And there's no formula, there's no right way, wrong way.
Hmm.
Just take care of yourself and do it in a healthy way. That's the right way, you know?
Got, yeah. Yeah. So again, say thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank
But
you.
before I let you go, I have two
Mm,
final questions, right? And the first is an exercise.
mm,
And that's an exercise that I did during my program in grad school. And it goes like this. If you just imagine yourself at the end of your life, all right,
mm,
and you have all your loved ones around you,
mm,
and you have 1 minute to basically take your life into one lesson,
mm,
right? One life lesson. And you know that if I gave that to my family members, to my loved one,
mm.
that lesson has the possibility or the ability to change their lives the way it changed mine. What would that life lesson be?
I think is to love yourself and love others no matter what, no matter what's happening. To always leave, you always want to leave a relationship in a peaceful way because then
Hmm.
you can always look back and you could, you know, walk away well,
Mm,
walk away well. No matter what's happening, walk away well so
got
that
it.
when you look back, you can, be at peace with how you walked away
Mm,
instead of walking away crazy and then regretting what you said, what you did, and how you left.
got it.
Mm.
So, how would you want to be remembered?
As a hopeful, loving person, that no matter what happened, I had hope and that I loved people well because that's what matters.
Nice.
Mm.
Nice. All right. Can you tell people where they can find you?
We thrive at life.com. Everything is there. All of my handles, my books, my
Hmm.
courses, everything is there. Yep.
Got it. Got it. And
Mm,
just that's outside. I heard you say a lot of Bible verses, and
mhm.
when I look at your website, you also have how you call it, Bible studies. Do you
Yeah.
run them on a regular basis?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's part of the whole thing. Your
Mhm.
your uh your coaching business. Well,
Yes, it's part of my coaching. Yeah.
got it.
Yep.
All right. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you
Thank you.
for all your insight, and I'm sure that all our listeners would benefit from our conversation. I
Thank
was
you.
very very grateful to have you here.
Mhm.
Thankful for spending that time with me, especially when you told me that whatever was going on in your family or whatever you're going through, I I'm very grateful that you just took the time to come.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me on here. And you matter. And I know you're going to make a huge difference in people's lives. Give them hope, give them peace. You're a great example of a good dad and a good man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. I really want to know though, what did you learn? What stuck with you? I love hearing from all of you, whether you're a current listener, a past client, or someone just finding the show. And while you're at it, do me a favor. If you're listening from your favorite podcast app, hit that subscribe button, leave a 5-star review, and throw in a 5-star rating. It really helps us grow and reach more people like yourself. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment below. Your support goes a long way. When you leave a review, you're helping us spread this message and change the world one person at a time. It makes a huge difference. So thank you so much for being here, for your support, and for helping us rise together. Until next time, my friends, keep rising and thriving.